Hello and welcome to Neverwinter Nights, and this will be part 39. In the last part, we entered and punched our way through most of a humanoid cave system in order to look for a farmer's wife who's been missing and potentially get rid of the bad guy responsible. So, Leah, I'm very sure that was the farmer's wife, wasn't it?
You're not one of the monsters, are you? Oh, when will this all end? I just want to be free of here.
Are you telling me I'm looking like a bugbear? I would likely be the only human you've seen. I suppose if I played with a half orc, I could understand that statement. Whatever. Who are you? My name is Leah. I was working on the farm when I was attacked by those beasts. They kidnapped me and oh. I need to ask you some questions. Oh, what kind of questions? What do you want me to ask me? Blah, blah. What can you tell me about the caves? Nothing much. Why did the monsters kidnap you? Just to do some menial labor? It would seem nothing too heavy or exhausting, really. Didn't make it any easier on me. I've been sick, exhausted, hungry. I can't sleep anywhere. I just want to get back to my husband. Insight, which of course is wisdom based. I hate to keep asking questions, but did they mention anything? Come to think of it, they mentioned something. Yeah, okay, the master. See if I can get the line I want to get. Well, apparently I can't. You should get out of here. Thank you so much, kind sir. I wish I could show you my appreciation. No, I better not. No, not going there at all. Not going there. Oh, I did check that. Of course I checked it. Oh, it wouldn't have been fun, would it? We got here. A Bugbear Beastmaster. I didn't get him quick enough. Oh, did I? Direwolf. The pack cleaner. I'll let them on if you want me to. I don't mind. I hope. I get torn to shreds by one of them. That would be fun, wouldn't it? Come on. Yeah, nothing major. Barely injured. Can I stun you actually? Okie dokie, that's good. Surprisingly good. Save against stun. I suppose it is a fortitude save, and it is likely classified as a fighter type class, so it is likely to have a naturally higher fortitude save. That's something to be mindful of when you're playing these kind of games if you're not aware of it. Casters usually have very good saves against mind affecting stuff, of course, because they know how magic works and that kind of stuff, so in that regard it makes perfect sense, whereas of course fighter types are usually more brawny, which means of course that they are likely to have high resistance to things that attack the physicality more so than the mind, and that's why they have higher fortitude saves in general, and of course roguish individuals are very nimble, and that's why their reflex save is usually relatively high. And then you have a class like the monk, which doesn't favor any of the saving throws and have a get the high bonus in all saving throws. This is actually nothing. I mean, it is a nice bonus. You can belong to different categories of saving throw bonuses. So when you level up, you get a favored saving throw. And usually you also have one disfavored saving throws. You can have more than one favored. But in the case of the monk, they get an even increase in all saving throws. Of course, it will be modified by their statistical bonuses. Will is increased by the wisdom, should be. Fortitude is increased by constitution, and reflex is increased by dexterity. The reason there's nothing particularly special about that as such is a class like the Paladin, which is philosophically my most favorite class to play. They have Divine Grace, which allows them to add their Charisma modifier, if positive, which it should be. If you're playing a Paladin with low Charisma, you're doing it wrong. That's opinion-based. You are more than welcome to disagree. Enemies nearby apparently. Let's just drink a potion. But anyway, they, because of the Divine Grace, they use add their Charisma modifier to their saving throws. That's a blanket thing. So if they have a Charisma modifier of +5, they get +5 to their save against Fortitude, Reflex, and Will. Dark balls. Very boring. Ha ha ha. No? No? Okay. It's fine. It's good. It's good. It must be super boring if it's a dark. No. Okay. And of course the Charisma thing that Paladins gain. Isn't it level 2? I think it's level 2, yeah. Means that Charisma-based casters like bards and sorceresses, or sorcerers, yeah, they are sorceresses. Even the male variations are still sorceresses. There's a lot of S's, and you may not have noticed that I do have a slight issue with multiple S's. When I was a child, I said F instead of S for some bizarre reason. I didn't do it with multiple S's for some other bizarre reason. But anyway, I digress, which I do all the time. I'm very, very skilled at that. That is a skill I have about 10,000 ranks in, but what I was trying to say is that those kind of casters can benefit from a few Paladin levels because, of course, they are stacking Charisma in order to increase their spell power potential. And as such, they will have a high Charisma bonus and getting free. Not free, because you're still sacrificing something from taking levels in another class. But you are effectively boosting your saves. Saves that would be otherwise very low. Of course, casters naturally have a relatively low Fortitude save. So, and that is why when you are attacking, did I check? Oh, I hate myself. Yes, I do. Okay, sorry. That is why when you attack a specific kind of enemy, you sort of have to evaluate what you're using against them. I mean, throwing fireballs against a bunch of rogues can be very entertaining, but likely not very useful because they are likely to have evasion or improved evasion, which means that if they make their saving throw, they're just going to laugh at your fireball. Something this character specifically is Ares balls that allows for saving throws. I'm not overly concerned about. Reflex saving throws at least, because even if you fail, you still only take half damage. But again, of course, rogues are not necessarily very brawny, so you want to use attacks against them that challenges the physicality of the character class. They do have somewhat decent will saving throws. Casters, of course, you want to go in and something like knockdown and stun and that kind of stuff. Knockdown because they are unlikely to have the discipline skill to counters knockdown. And of course, because they have spent so much time studying books, that they haven't had time to go to the gym, you know, so Oh, apparently I got level drained randomly by a trap. Lovely. Hey, well, that's what we got restoration scrolls for. We got nothing better to use them for, I suppose. One thing is when you're getting hit by a vampire that drains a level, another thing is you're blundering into a trap randomly. Oh, lost it all. Anyway, so I probably don't need to tell anyone watching this how to engage against certain enemy types, but in the heat of the moment, it can be very um, easy to forget. I meant to rest. I should be able to rest now. Did I rest before? Yes, I did. Apparently, I did. I don't need to rest now. I'm doing it. But anyway, as I was saying, those kind of little tidbits can be very useful. We are now in the Ogre Caves because, of course, even though we rescued Leah, which Joel, the farmer, asked us to do, we still have to take the head of a certain Dergiab, whatever it's called. So I think it's likely time to speed things up again. Actually, it just dawned on me we have a prison nearby, so I should probably go and speak to who set the prisoner. That object is locked. Oh, well, I can do damage to it. Probably going to take a while to take this one down, but... couldn't I? You know, let's try something silly, shall we? Because why not? Probably have a massive penalty to doing it, but it is a gate thing. One of these and another one of these. What does it say for my to hit? Oh. Flurry of blows and then bash it. One hit. Oh, great. That was a waste of effort. Just because of the acid damage. I probably screwed that off, didn't I? Come on. I said something about doing this off recording. Okay, I'm never going to use them. I think. I don't know why I keep them. It's just a collector's item or something. But anyway, because they have acid damage and you can miss a door, but it's hard to. You can only miss on one.
No, you look more like intruders to me.
Yeah, can be beneficial. Anyway, and you look more like a prisoner to me. Well, yes, that's true. I'm a prisoner. Who's this Dergiab you mentioned? But the masters only become babble about. Dergiab was your partner. What were you recruiting an army for, and how big was blah blah blah? What to end with? Tell me more about the causes. You know the purpose. Anything else I can take from here? Blah blah blah. Probably not. Sort of. We won't meet again. Likely not. No, that's likely very true. You see, this is the one thing I really appreciate this game for doing is that Ocean Plus is that it gives you a main quest to go to a certain area to do something, and then you can pick up a handful of side quests if you can find them, because some of them are out of the way, and then you can do it all in one fell swoop, which is very, very nice. And that's why I picked out the quest for the gems and the quest for the books, because we are going to bump into them regardless, and as such, we may as well get the extra experience for doing it. But we are likely yet again at a point where I need to speed things up, so I will come back to in-game live commentary if something exciting happens. So of course I don't know these kind of things before I start editing the videos, but this little sped up sequence was a whopping total of 10 minutes where I was doing nothing but just fighting. And that's why I have decided to speed these bits up. As mentioned elsewhere, I could have cut it out completely, but yeah, for consistency, for continuity, I think it's called, I'm leaving it in. But when we have these kind of very, very long periods of nothing but just punching stuff in the face, I will likely do some commentary on top of it just to make it somewhat less boring, I suppose. I don't know. Maybe I am more boring than the content. That is potentially likely. I don't know. The nature of this kind of game, of course, means that you have to engage in a lot of fighting, and as such, in order to make the world seem more alive, they will happily throw in bucket loads of enemies which have no real consequence for the game except for slowing you down and giving you a tiny bit of experience. The game uses a classification system based on level, and it's based around your level, of course. I mean, the enemies you fight have an inherent level of some description, and based on the difference between their level and your level, they will have a certain challenge rating, and it is that challenge rating that defines how much experience they yield once defeated. Effortless will give the least amount of experience possible. The next rank up will give slightly more. Moderate will give so-called even experience, which of course means that because they are moderate, they should provide an even challenge, and as such will give you average experience. The next one up is challenging, which will give you a good chunk of bonus experience, and I'm very sure the next one is impossible. So-called impossible enemies are not actually impossible to defeat, but on a one-on-one fight with no tricks used, no potions used, no anything used, that enemy should be undefeatable, and that is why they get the impossible rating. But of course, if you use a knowledge of game mechanics and items and all sorts of things, then you can, I wouldn't say easily because it's not easy to do, but you can defeat the so-called impossible rated enemies, and they will give a significant chunk of experience. It's hard to milk that system because what happens is you get that huge chunk of experience bringing you closer to level, or actually to a level. This means, of course, that you are getting one level higher, and therefore you are decreasing the gap between what was challenging and moderate. Personally, I prefer not to even worry about the system and just fight what I need to fight and then take the challenge. And if it is a so-called impossible fight and it's a quest target, I will happily try it out. And then if it turns out to be impossible after an hour or two's bashing my face against the wall, then I will likely go and go for a level in order to slow the gap down a bit, or decrease the gap, I think it's called. Slow the gap down. Well. But on that note, I think we are just about done with this sped up process, so back to a normal game commentary. So, back to live talking, because of course, this is the lair of the bad guy, the master. And if I'm not mistaken, there are two tough guys in there. Obviously, Dergiab himself, but there's also this guy called Ganon, who just happens to be a cultist. Very convenient. He can do sneak attacks. You know what I would really like to see him put on first? Not likely to. I don't know. And I thought save him. He failed. You are allowed to kill him, please. Can't move. Okay, he died. 157 experience. Not bad. Sometimes I know you can't expect that, but it would be nice if the game could actually prioritize a bit better and go for the lowest health enemy. But I suppose we can't have it all. It's a minor thing. Well, of course, it gives you something to do, because I mean, if you just ran into a group of enemies like I did before, huge pile of enemies just they're not going to hit me. Well, they could hit. I had to use 2 potions, so it was more of safety. But you know, the fact that you have to think a bit for yourself, I suppose, is not such a bad idea. Cat squeeze, light worms, visibility, gauntlet. What do we got here? I'm still hoping for Hint Fist, because I do prefer the Hint Fist over the Yellow Rose. Hint Fist +3. Now we have a decision to make. Did we already have one of those? Oh, no. No, that's a +3 as well. Sonic damage. And it's 2 sonic damage, which just means it's 2 guaranteed damage against chests and the like. And because there's very little that will resist sonic damage, it's just 2 points of damage. But if you consider the fact that you're playing a character class that maybe not so much now, but eventually will end up attacking silly amounts of time. So then 2 damage here, 2 damage there, it all adds up. Die, fools. Why are you saying fools? There's only one of me. Are you saying double or something? Failed? If you are caster, by all means, now we succeeded. No damage because, of course, improved evasion. Oh, he died. He was a tough baddie, wasn't he? Fight like mage kind of thing. There's one thing it's a minor thing again, but something that I find interesting. I mean, truth be told, I'm quite glad that it doesn't work. Double axe. Not encumbered. Close to. It says that you're running on full PvP setting, because of course, I mean, I went up to Dungeons & Dragons hardcore rules, which I've explained in an earlier episode. But the full PvP only applies to allies, not enemies. So they can happily throw fireballs and surrounded by their own allies without being at risk of damaging them. Which, I mean, it is ideal, because that means you're not losing any experience, because they're not blowing up their friends. But on what I don't like about it is in that regard, it also means, of course, that the enemies will happily just throw fireballs without any consideration, because there's no considerations to make or to be aware of, or whatever you call it. In the Gold Box and Dragons games, not the early ones, because the AI was non-existent in those games, so it was happy to throw a fireball at your characters at point blank range, obliterating themselves in the process. But in later versions of those kind of Gold Box games, there was a minimal of consideration programmed into the coding, so that enemies would not cast a delay blast fireball at their own feet. And that, of course, meant that if you could corner an enemy caster, you would prevent them from throwing those kind of spells, which, of course, because in those games, it was the time of Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition. The computer games weren't nearly as detailed, elaborate, whatever you call it, as they became later on. So I don't know if I can't remember. It's been absolutely years since I played pen and paper Dungeons & Dragons, but I mean, you probably had some sort of way of resisting or evading or whatever. But my point was that My point was that I lost my point. There was a much larger consideration. I told myself into a corner. I need to refresh my memory just for a second. I don't know why I managed to distract myself, which is well impressive. What I was trying to say, I can pass the door while I'm talking, I suppose, was something along the lines of that you were less likely to, as a normal mortal player character, resist or evade or dodge a fireball. So in that regard, being able to prevent it from being thrown at you was much more vital than it necessarily is in 3rd edition onwards, because of course you have 10 different abilities, skills, traits, things that will help you dodge those kind of effects. So you are not necessarily as reliant on being able to avoid the damage from them, or avoid them being cast in the first place. But if you play something like a paladin or a ranger, I think rangers have access to evasion. I don't know, can't remember, but whatever. Let's just assume a class that doesn't have a very good evasion ability. Having someone cast like a fireball in your face at point blank range with no consequence, it gets old. I have to admit, it does get old. Thanks for watching, take care, see you next time. Bye bye for now.